The podcast you're about to listen to is the second half of our bi-weekly podcast where we are interviewing the Reverend Shaye Champ-Corell. We talk a little bit about the news, but the first half of this got completely obliterated. The audio got destroyed. We don't have it anymore. So if it sounds like you're coming in the middle of the conversation, you are. But we're going to start talking about movies and then talk to Reverend Shaye about being a parent of a gamer. I hope you enjoy this podcast, and we apologize for the technical difficulties and for losing out on the first half of this podcast. Hope you enjoy this episode.
As everybody knows, the movie business has been shut down thanks to the pandemic, and it's finally back, or at least it's trying. We'll see how long it lasts. But this weekend, Tenet is released, which is going to theaters. They are not doing video on demand. While Mulan is coming out next week, but it is going video on demand route with a caveat. You have to be a subscriber to Disney, and you have to drop $30 to watch it. So, you guys, what is your thoughts right now on the whole debate of video on demand in the pandemic versus theater on, using a theater still? And how much would, you guys have a family. See, me, it's like, if I drop $30, it's for me to watch Mulan by myself. David, you drop $30 for Mulan. You got 4 people watching it, which is probably the same you'd be dropping at a movie theater. So maybe it's not that bad. What is your guys' take on what is happening in the movie biz right now with the video on demand versus theater option?
Did you guys ever see Outbreak?
Yes.
Yes.
For the movie theater scene?
Yes.
That was my first thought. That's my thought about movie theaters right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw that. I'll have to.
Oh, David.
Ebola badness.
Okay.
It's pandemic movie watching, like, must. Like, my wife did it the first week, like, we were in lockdown. And I was like, stop.
I watched
Stop,
Contagion.
turn it off.
Okay.
Turn it off, because the wheels started turning in her head, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is us. We're all gonna die. Everyone's gonna, it's horrible. But yeah, so what is your guys' thought? Do you think $30 is too steep? Are you guys thinking about doing it for Mulan for your families?
Yes, I probably will. And I also hate that I'm going to spend $30 to watch a movie for 24 hours. Luckily, we've already dove into Disney Plus for Hamilton. So, that's a bonus. But no, if I could buy it for $30 on Disney Plus, that would be a no-brainer. But the fact that do we know if it's going to be 24 hours or...
Let me double check. David, what are your thoughts on this? And I'll look it up.
Yeah, so I was trying to look that up. We've done this a couple of times already during the pandemic. So we spent, I think it was $20 through Google Play to be able to purchase Onward when it came out, Disney Pixar movie. Granted, I think we're living in that weird in-between space where, on the one hand, I purchased it, right? Technically, I don't own a physical copy. I only own a digital copy. Not that I'm necessarily going to go back now and pull that digital copy up to watch it, because it's also available on Disney Plus, which I have access to. So, where you watch your media, I think purchase versus, rent is a big deal. For me, $30 it's really on the fence. I mean, for 20 and to buy it, I think was a little bit easier to swallow. For me, 30, the difference, normally I would go and I would spend $30 at a theater, right? Probably easily, that's just what popcorn costs.
50 for a family of 4.
Yeah, for a family of 4. I mean, we're out in the Western Slope here, so it's a little cheaper, but, but we're probably looking at $45, right? For the 4 of us. But for that $45, I have a nice comfy chair. I have a really good quality sound system. I have a really good image. The size of the image when it comes to your viewing angle and what's the word I'm looking for? The
experience.
The percentage of your field of vision.
Your field of vision
is far bigger on a movie theater unless you've got a really big TV and you sit extremely close, right? Most of us don't have a TV. Russ, I'm even going to bet, I'm going to have to do the math on this later. I'm even willing to bet that your TV is not field of vision wise bigger than David, what you would experience in a movie.
Are you forgetting my movie theater room?
Projector. Okay. don't talk about the projector. Most people's TVs, all right,
Yeah.
are not to the point where you're going to get a better experience with your television than you would in the movie theater. And you're not paying anybody for their brick and mortar space. You're not paying anybody for their employment. So, in some ways, I feel like you're also making a vote with your dollars that you don't value movie theaters by spending this $30 on Mulan. And in some ways, right, back to the social justice-y piece, this was another place where the main actress in Mulan, I don't remember her name, came out in support of the Chinese government back with the whole Free Beijing thing.
That's right.
And there was a lot of pushback on that, which is, I think, another reason that they decided to delay the release of this was just like, let's let the news cool down so that people will actually give us their money. So all that being said, I don't know if I'm going to spend $30 or not. Probably not. I'll probably wait.
I will give you my little bit of a take on this. Oh, by the way, I did look it up. So it's an in-between. It's not a rental. It's also not a purchase. You just get access to the movie as long as you're a subscriber to Disney Plus.
Oh,
so
kind of like a purchase for a while.
But eventually it will be free on Disney Plus because you're paying $30 to get early access to the movie and be able to watch it as long as you have Disney Plus, just like you would if it comes out in 3-4 months. So it's the $30 to be able to watch it next week. The reason why I think a lot of people will do it is because there's just nothing to watch right now. We are getting to that point where things are dropping off and we are going to be in a lot of trouble when it comes to media because a lot of movie production has halted, TV shows have halted. So we're going to be in that lull. Now, okay, on my side, and here's where the tenant aspect of it comes in real quick, David. Christopher Nolan loves movie theaters. He is one of the biggest supporters of movie theaters, which is why he has refused. He has said, you will not put my movie on video on demand. And it's not because I want the money. It's because my movie is supposed to be experienced in a movie theater atmosphere that you just described with amazing sound and amazing picture. And I will say his movies are my favorite things to watch in my movie room at the house because it's some of the best audio mixing, some of the best picture. He's the first director to start using an IMAX camera regularly. The guy cares about production value and what it looks like. And so to him, to guys like Quentin Tarantino, to these hardcore movie directors that love cinema, they're going to be sad if this ends movies. And I think that's what they're fighting right now is, do we end the idea of a normal movie theater and valuing that versus being able to watch it from home?
Yeah,
I will say that, there's something very exciting still in me. I get that tingle when I'm watching a Disney movie in the theater and the Disney scene comes up. And Pixar, I love seeing those movies in the theater, and I cannot wait for this pandemic to be over so I can do that again.
Yeah, I think there's something
it doesn't in movie theaters, but
I think there's something to be said for the required attention in that time and space that, rather than, doing what we're doing with TV and stuff right now. And I would say rather than doing like you do with no, you're fine.
sorry guys.
You're fine. If you need to mute yourself for a second, you can do that too.
Sorry, Mom.
But rather than doing like what you're doing with the TV and movies, and I would even say worship, right? Where we're worshiping in this way, you've got your phone and you're doing worship, but like, you're not really worshiping, right? And I would say the same thing is true with when it depends, right? Everybody's different, but I'm going to say
whole other conversation.
Yes.
But I'm going to say the experience is not going to be as, visceral as whole body. It's certainly not an embodied experience as much as being there in person. And I think then, talking about the quality, right? Especially the question is, and this was always a question back when I was doing film stuff, was what is the medium I'm trying to shoot for, right? If I'm shooting something that I know is going to be on your phone, right? Little tiny head nod to Quibi, at least, even though their stuff's kind of weird. And the idea of a 10-minute TV show is still weird. But, they said, we know people might take their phone and watch it in portrait mode, or they might take it and watch it in landscape mode, and you can watch it in both. That was kind of neat. Christopher Nolan says, I'm going to shoot this thing in 70 millimeter IMAX, which, just for a quick reference for those of you that don't know, a 70 millimeter IMAX film frame is compared to a normal 35 millimeter film camera. That's like a business card is compared to a sheet of paper. That you just cannot even compare the quality. I had a buddy of mine that actually used to work for the Howard Hughes Center IMAX display team, which is where they often would film, or they would go watch dailies of their film that they were shooting in IMAX at the Howard Hughes Center out in Los Angeles. He was the IMAX projectionist. Well, then they took that whole thing and went to IMAX digital, but Cinemark actually hired him on to continue doing IMAX projection in select theaters, just to go show IMAX film versions of Christopher Nolan's the space movie with the upside down mountains. Interstellar. So he went and did that. Did the same thing, I think, for Dunkirk. I went to the only theater I could find that showed Dunkirk in actual film, and holy flippin' cow, what an experience.
David, so I got to see The Hateful Eight with Tarantino.
Okay.
He did 30, what's the original like film quality? He did that. And it was only available in one theater in Denver, and that was the Regal Cinemas off of Hamden, 285 and I-25. And so me and my best friend, who's a movie buff as well, we went and we saw it in that, and the experience was insane. They threw in an intermission in the middle, like old school, where you got to go out and into the lobby, and it was unbelievable to get to experience that in person. I will never forget that one.
In Ultra Panavision 70. It was a 70 millimeter film. And but it's an anamorphic lens, so it takes your 70 millimeter film and then stretches it. We could be here all day talking film format.
Yes.
Anyway, I think it is a question, right? Where are we voting with our dollars? For what type of experience are we having? And it will continue to be a question once we're past this pandemic of how and where we're willing to spend our money. And I think it's a place we've already been. 2 years ago, we were already seeing less and less things in the theaters, which forced people who are producing media to produce better and better things for theaters. The other thing I think will be very interesting about all of this is to say, will there be more emerging film markets or film production markets in places like New Zealand and Australia that are a little bit more isolated, but where New Zealand now is going, well, we haven't had COVID here for a long time, right? New Zealand could probably just say, hey, we're going to keep quarantining our whole island or islands, and we're going to start producing media, and all of a sudden we're all watching New Zealand movies. And the idea of an American Hollywood, which has already been going away, just continues to dissolve a little bit further.
Well, so my last little piece on this, we'll move on out of this. We'll move to the discussion because we're going on.
It's not as long as our spoiler cast, but we're getting there.
Well, you're covering a 25-hour game. I think we should have expected it to have been that long. The other big news in movies is, of course, the one I'm super excited about because, again, nostalgia, and it's actually doing pretty well. But Bill and Ted also Face the Music comes out this upcoming week. I am so excited. And just so everybody knows, right this moment, it is sitting at 66% on Metacritic. Now, that may sound terrible, but when you think about dumb, stupid comedies never review well with critics because it's not filmy enough, and it's not sophisticated. Exactly. It's not sophisticated enough, and they want to trash it because it's not art. Well, guess what? 66% for Bill and Ted makes me extremely happy because I was thinking maybe 40, 50% I'd be happy.
7.5 on IMDb and an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That means good things.
I can't wait to see it from a feminist perspective that that it's about their daughters.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited about that. It's like Kevin Smith with his daughter. You see all these nerd guys that are really stepping up for their girls, which I like.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think it's just at the right time. They released it at the right time. They realized, let's get this out there. Let's get it out there, make people happy. And, I think it will do really well on demand. It's only releasing in a few select theaters that are open, but it's going to be on demand. So I think I'm going to be watching it from home. That's probably not a movie you'd have to see in a theater. It's not the same experience. Tenet, I want to see in a theater. I got to figure out, maybe, I don't know. I don't think I can risk it. It's tough because Christopher Nolan's film has to be watched in the theater. But I will say, David, when you eventually do come to Montana, we will have to have like a Christopher Nolan like movie night and watch, some of those movies in the theater room, because I do love putting on a Christopher Nolan film just because he knows how to make movies.
You
Is
could
your
always
is
you
your
could get Rene
projector?
Russo's Outbreak suit.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what? I'm waiting for somebody to take a picture like doing that. Actually, one of our friends is a teacher in Texas, and she's wearing that, by the way, for teaching. She has a full PPE suit that she went and bought so that she can teach and try and stay away from the COVID. But that's another topic for another time.
Yeah.
You know what, David? Should we take a quick break and then we will come back with our discussion where we are going to talk about how to balance work and play and family and just what it means to be a gamer as an older person that has responsibilities.
Sure. We're going to take a teeny break and then we'll be right back.
Our main topic here, I'm gonna kind of try and moderate and be kind of the middleman, because we're gonna be talking about kind of work-life balance, but mostly what it looks like to game with a family and how that is affected and what happens. And I'm sliding around, I'm moving around, I'll be in the middle.
I'm moving Russ on our video stream. Russ is gonna be the middleman. There you go.
I will be the middleman.
Russ literally in the middle.
So you guys both, you have children, you're both married, you have jobs. I mean, you're both pastors, which again, my wife is a pastor, so I always give kudos to pastors because I know how difficult it is. So what are some things that you guys have seen do in order to balance, your family, your work, and then, I would call it self-care, because even though Shaye, you don't game. Obviously, we all need self-care in our life. David, you use gaming as a self-care tool. What are ways that you guys are balancing all of that, and what is the importance and meaning of taking those kind of things for yourself as well? And let's start with Shaye. Let's start with you and go ahead and see what that looks like.
Well, I've learned to love my Kindle because it's a lot easier to read on my phone with my kids than it is to try and sit down with an actual book. Especially because I have a 3-year-old who thinks everything I'm doing should have her face right in the middle of it. I think finding a balance and finding that time is essential. I got my hair cut today, and for 30 minutes, that was better than a 3-hour nap, I think. But sleep's also important too. So yeah, and just keeping that balance, because I can get lost in a book all day, and I've definitely seen Jeff stay up way too late playing games. I have you guys to thank for that on Monday nights. So
Oops.
Your conversations are great. I hear his end of it until like 11 o'clock. But I think it's just making sure you find that balance where you're taking care of your body and your spirit as well as your family. Because you can definitely, I know gaming is one of those things that can really suck you in. Even if I don't play, I know it can suck you in and then you've been up all night. So.
Yeah, I know for me, it's definitely a balance is important to take an assessment of where you're at. I remember at one point having a conversation actually with my kid about this. He was at school and this kid was like, "Oh, I love Fortnite. I'm just super addicted to it." And my son was like, "Dad, what does addicted mean?" And I was like, great conversation started. Like, let's talk about addiction. And so we got into the deep nitty gritty of, the fact that addiction is when something is taking time, taking energy away from work or education or family, right? If it's interfering with those things, if you're not able to stop doing it, so yeah, maybe if you start playing Fortnite and you physically can't put it down, and when you're asked to put it down, you get angry, then maybe that is an addiction problem and you need to start talking about it. And when we started this podcast, we talked about, that maybe one of the places that we could talk to people is to say, hey, if you are struggling to break away from games, then, please seek out some help. We're here to help, to have conversations with people if they need it. Also seek out professional help from a counselor that can talk you through, what are the deeper reasons why you can't pull away, and how to balance that. And I know even for we've got a guy in our group who literally said gaming was a major problem for him. He still loves hanging out and talking to us, but he got rid of all of his stuff because he said, hey, it was too much. I couldn't put it down. And so I just can't have it around me. But I still like hanging out with other people that like gaming. Kind of like a guy, actually another guy in our group, who is sober, right? Has been sober for, like 25 years, but he doesn't mind going to the bar, shooting pool, hanging out with the people he would hang out with at the bar, but he needs to not touch the stuff. So, I think addiction's a major part of it, to make sure that you have the balance to find time. And then I would say the other thing is being willing to say, all right, I've got an hour and I'm going to play games for an hour. I'm going to set a timer. I do this for myself all the time. Hey Siri, set a timer. She's probably going to do it now. But
so helpful.
That kind of thing to set limits for yourself, but also then make time for yourself. If you find yourself, hey, I've been working, 3 weeks straight, haven't had a day off, just say, look, I need a few hours to just find myself again. And so Shaye, I love that you talked about, just even getting a haircut, cause we've had moments definitely for us as parents where we've said, hey kids, we just need, we need a few minutes here cause we've been go. And so, why don't you go take the dogs for a walk or, why don't you go do something else? We need some space. We need some time. And then also for them, right? They need time. So finding balance for ourselves, but also finding time for them and finding a balance there to say, yeah, totally play, have fun. I mean, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, there was an article that came out specifically talking about the social benefits of games like Fortnite or things like that especially in a pandemic where kids are not hanging out in person, they can be on a voice chat with their friends. But how do you balance that? So I wanted to throw a question out there, Shaye, for you. Which is, are there any strategies that you've found for how to help your kids, or I guess just the one kid that's gaming, to have a healthy attitude towards gaming, towards balance? Any strategies that you found, maybe some advice for our listeners that they might be able to use with their kids?
When he's really having a hard time stepping away from it, we make it so he has to earn time playing video games. So I'm like, okay, so for every 15 minutes of video games, you need to read for half an hour or practice your typing for half an hour, or you need to do this chore. And we try to keep it so it's not like you have to do 10 chores to play a video game, but so it's kind of the equivalent of what you'd like from your play, work life, family life balance, yeah. That's why reading is 30 minutes to his 15 of gaming for him. For me, it would be like, Shaye, you have to game for 15 minutes so you can read for 5, if for the equivalent. But I think that works really well. And the other thing is we're flexible with it. So it's not all the time. It's just when we notice that he's getting so sucked in that he can't put it down, or when he gets mad, that we say, okay, let's talk about how to balance this out again.
Yeah. For our kid, it would definitely be, if we gave him that option of 30 minutes to reading for every 15 minutes of gaming, he'd be, probably, he'd do 12 hours of reading and then he'd game for 6 hours and then, and then sleep for 6.
Exhaustion. Yeah.
He'd be reading a Tale of Two Cities or some Moby Dick or some
I think he's on like the 3rd or 4th Aragon book. He's
okay.
Plowing through those. But
that was better than Moby Dick. Everything is. So.
Sorry, I'm going classical.
Yeah, we found for us, it's we've got the essentials, right? Like feed the dogs is, make sure that the dogs have food. If they don't have food, then we're gonna have problems. Same thing like as parents, like feed the children.
You're video gaming too much.
Clean the clothing. Right. Well, there was an article.
Oh.
I'd have to go find it. There was an article about parental neglect from some parents in some other country who literally they were on some World of Warcraft raid and neglected their kids for like 5 days.
I remember that.
A really terrible, really tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the extreme end of the extreme. But yeah, for us, it's been a matter of what's that?
Read. Said I don't neglect the kids. I just try to like read and cook at the same time and zest my thumb into dinner.
That's right. I forgot you zested your thumb. Would not recommend. 0 stars.
It was good though. I don't know. Maybe all our food just needs a little more meat.
Nice.
Oh, we need a soundboard for this podcast, so you can throw that in there.
Oh, cannibalism.
So
I'm sure there's a game for that. Yeah. So for us, it was really a matter of making sure that the essentials are done, and then we've got some chores that have to be done every day. And once those are done, if chores and homework are done, then you can do that. I think both of these strategies are neat in that they really mirror kind of what the real world provides us. If you want to go play with your friends, you have to go to work first, right? You have to earn money before you can spend money on games. You probably have to pay rent before you can spend money on games. Pay your mortgage before you can buy a boat, those kind of things. So, I think it's good that we're teaching the kids those skills. I would just more than anything, I want to invite a conversation. So I'm gonna throw this out there for anybody listening. Jump on our Facebook community, start a conversation. I would love us to have a whole longer conversation with more parents of gamers or parents who are balancing their own gaming with parenting about how to find that balance. I would love to hear more strategies from everybody else. Russ, do you have any other questions for us?
I think I'm good. Also, feel free in the comments on YouTube, throw those out there. We monitor those as well. We can always use that as well for a conversation. Obviously, our Facebook group is a great opportunity for bigger discussions. And who knows, maybe we'll do a Discord conversation about this with some of the guys on our Monday night Discord hangouts if you guys want to come check that out. But I think that's it for me.
I've got one other thing I just thought of.
Yeah.
Which is that I wanted to throw out the reference to the article that came out of a study that came out of London a couple years back about gaming and kids. And, especially I've talked about it before on the podcast, I think. But when we as parents think about gaming, right, and we think about screen time, so often it's gotten thrown into the same kind of way we talk about like alcoholic drinks or about calories. It's very much just like how much is too much. Here's the number, stay below the number. And so for a while it was like, pediatricians recommend no more than 2 hours of screen time above a certain age or no screen time for a certain age. Well, now, of course, post-pandemic world, it's like, okay, no more than 2 hours of screen time, but Timmy, you're going to be on Zoom for the next 8 hours to learn math. So all of those walls are getting broken down, but the study that came out of London really talked about the quality of the screen time and how it's being used. And so I would encourage, parents, consider how the screen time is being used. Is it a time for your kid to learn about a cool world? I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and I found out about Assassin's Creed Odyssey Discovery Mode, which is literally like I can hand over the controller to my kid. It's rated 10 and up, or 10 and under. I don't know. E10 plus, whatever that is. And he can take it and go wander through ancient Egypt, or he can wander through ancient Greece and learn about all these things, playing a character that's kind of like the Assassin's Creed Odyssey character or the Assassin's Creed Origins character. And we can talk about it and say, yeah, did you go visit the pyramids? Tell me about it. Tell me what you learned. So, there's that. The other thing I would say is, like Jeff was talking about, being able to use the Xbox to test out the games. Parents, if you're able to play the games that your kids are playing, how much cooler is it going to be when they come to you and say, oh my gosh, I just beat this level 10 boss. And you're like, oh my gosh, did you see this other thing? They're going to love that interaction. You're going to have a better parent-kid interaction than if it's just like, okay, Timmy, go play video games. And then the last thing I'll just say is, consider the difference in screen time between saying, I need a break. Here's an iPad, go away for 5 hours versus, hey, let's have a family Wii bowling night.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Both screens, totally different qualities.
Right. I was going to say that's one way Jeff balances it is he and Isaac play together, talk about the games. He's played everything Isaac does, so they help each other through the levels. Isaac gets to celebrate when he can pass a part of the level that Jeff hasn't yet. That makes him really happy. Nice. But that change, like that works into the work-life parent balance. And so it's a new way to connect with your kids and parent with your kids while also fueling something you love, which is great.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I mean, to piggyback on that too, David, what you were saying, I think it's very important for parents. If your kids are showing interest in games, game with them. It's very, very important because again, I can't state enough. You should know what your kid is playing. I think plenty of parents don't do that and they just kind of let them game and that's their thing and it's their hobby and I'll get them a game to keep them quiet. But having worked at like Best Buy in college and have a mom, drop Grand Theft Auto in front of me for her 8-year-old son who's there. And I'm like, no, ma'am, like, just so you know, this game is not for kids. Like, are you still fine with buying this for your 8-year-old child? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. He's, he plays these type of stuff all the time. And I'm just like, no, not okay. But that's more of the conversation. It's just be involved with your kids. And it's not just gaming. So don't blame gaming either, because there's plenty of other ways. Now kids have cell phones, books. Hey, let's have a real, come to Jesus moment right now. The Bible is not like, the cleanest thing in the world. Just FYI, people. I've gotten several people that have gotten upset with me when I bring up or we do a study with kids and it just so happens it brings up a verse that talks about, whatever, whether it's, Song of Songs or, there's a lot.
Let's talk about Joe.
Yeah. Well, we bought our son the Brick Bible, which is the Bible in Legos, and it's great. Go look at the reviews online on Amazon of the Brick Bible because a bunch of people love it, and a bunch of people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible! It's violent. There's blood. There's circumcision. This is nothing like the real Bible." And I'm like, "Well, have you read the real? Like there are parts in there." And
their entire book's just about circumcision.
Right. And so, to say, okay, if nothing else, right, if you're not okay exposing your kid to that, then don't expose your kid to that. In which case also probably don't expose them to all of Scripture. But then the other thing is to say, that's a talking point, right? You as a parent can have a talking point. Let's talk about why did those people go kill those people? What were they warring over? Why were they mad? What do you do with anger? I'm hearing like the Mr. Rogers voice, what do you do when you're mad? Have those conversations.
Daniel Tiger song that goes with it.
Yes. David, can you please sing that right now?
No.
Well,
because that's time.
Yes. Speaking of which, Shaye, thank you for joining us. We'll let you go ahead and plug anything that you've got going on, whether you're doing other things online, anything like that. What do you have going on that people can check out?
Doing some awesome things on our mgthornton.org and our Facebook page for Mission Gathering in Thornton. We're doing some incredible news ways of worshiping. One of them is a podcast we just released that I'm doing called The Book Nook with Pastor Shaye. Where I read popular kids' books and then talk about where you can find God in those kids' books and in their lives. And we've connected it to subscription boxes too. So you can order a subscription box for your kid that connects to the podcast that has activities. So it's a whole new way to do children's worship during the time of COVID. And our lead pastor, Reverend Lauren Richmond, has his podcast, Future Christian, that talks about how Christians are exploring and changing and how the field of mainline and progressive Christianity is changing. So
awesome.
Very cool.
Well, make sure you guys check all of that out. And of course, we got the wonderful plugs at the end. But speaking of which, real quick, before I forget, David, you brought up Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins, which is great because guess what, guys? We're giving away a copy of Assassin's Creed Origins on Uplay for PC. Okay, so Uplay account, PC, you get Assassin's Creed Origins. All you got to do is head over to one of our social media accounts, and we have listed a link to sign up for a Gleam account. And then using Gleam, you just check out all our social media pages while you're logged into Gleam, and you get entries every time you look at our Facebook, you follow us on Twitch, you subscribe on YouTube, you follow us on Twitter, you check out our Instagram, all of that. Tons of people have already entered. We're going to have it's 2 weeks worth of this giveaway. So make sure you guys go check that out. Our Facebook page, David, throw out the Facebook page because I always forget.
So we got a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Crossfire Faith Gaming. Okay. Go to Facebook, you search for Crossfire Faith and Gaming, or you look up Crossfire Faith Gaming, and you'll find us there. The Facebook group, which is under the page, is facebook.com/groups/XFUMC. That's X for cross, F for faith, and then UMC, XFUMC on Facebook groups. So, and
hopefully eventually we will have a website. You can just go there and get all of this. But for now, go to all these other places. Check out our Twitch. Search us Crossfire Podcast on Twitch. Our Twitter handle is Church for Gamers. Follow us everywhere so you can get the latest and greatest news. Interact with us. Come hang out. We're going to be we do our Twitch streams usually at least minimum Thursday nights, potentially more nights as we go along here. We got to get our schedules set because we are all working wonderful individuals. But we have so many ways for you to interact with us, and we appreciate our wonderful community and our wonderful group of people that hang out with us all the time in different ways. And it's just been awesome to see and awesome to be a part of. So we do appreciate everybody and our fans, and we appreciate Shaye for coming on and talking about family stuff, and just hanging out with us weird people. So, David, any last words for our wonderful viewers and listeners out there?
Nope. All I got to say is thanks. Have a good one. Be safe. And in a second, enjoy our wonderful Crossfire theme provided by DJ 8-Bit Mullet and the original Crossfire board game. Here we go.
Good night, guys.
Crossfire.